Today's recommended series is the graphic novel Saga by Brian K. Vaughan with art by Fiona Staples. Saga is a deep space romance about two people who fall in love against what seems like insurmountable odds and then have to try and escape their messed up reality for the sake of their child. Now, this is a series that I would recommend that you read in order because so much of it is based upon these characters' history and where they come from and what has been happening between their two peoples, because there's a bit of Romeo and Juliet about them. If the Montagues and Capulets were murderous space forces. So the planets that they come from and the species that they belong to, a lot of that informs the way their story is formed, and it drives the story forward as well. I'd like to note at the outset that this is a series that is meant 100% for adults, just because there are people out there who look at a graphic novel and think, well, that must be for kids. No, this is published by Image Comics, whose other big series is The Walking Dead. Unlike The Walking Dead, Saga is not meant to be adapted to TV or film, according to the writer. So this is pretty much the only medium on which you can read the story, but that doesn't mean that it's meant for kids. A lot of the content is very explicit in terms of pretty much anything that you can think of. I personally don't think it's anything too explicit, but I read stuff that's pretty out there. So my boundaries, to paraphrase Joey from Friends, the line might be a dog to you. I think that's the correct paraphrase. But you should know that they tried to ban this book from the public library system because concerned busybodies thought it was a little too much. Doesn't that make you want to read it all the more though? Like all the best graphic novels out there, this one also raises some deep philosophical questions. A lot of the issues in this series stem from war. What does it mean to be a citizen whose people are at war? What does it take for you to stand by your principles? How far are you willing to take things? What is the cost of war on a personal basis? This is the story of a family that is affected by things that are beyond their control and things that they don't agree with, and yet they must pay the price for it. And that's an analogy that I feel can be easily adapted to pretty much every society in the world right now, which is a sad comment on the state of humanity today. I don't want to talk too much about the story other than the bare bones because the way that it's developed, it's a surprise in every series, I felt. So I would like you to discover that for yourself. When I first came across a copy of Saga and I didn't know anything about it, I thought it was Japanese. So much of the good stuff usually is, but actually Fiona Staples was just inspired by Japanese art, and the way she uses it in what is a very American series, I think it's stunning, and it definitely makes you feel the emotions of the story a lot more. It's absolutely brilliant, and the series would be worth it just for the art alone. And because this is set in deep space, there's a lot of out there elements, I guess, in that the lead characters come across a lot of alien life forms, and you have to be able to relate to them as characters rather than be taken aback by their appearance. And the art does such a good job of connecting the viewer to the story. Right now the series is on indefinite hiatus, which means that you can catch up on past issues in time for the next one whenever it comes out. I also want to give a quick tip about buying this series in that I would really buy a physical version of these books. Buy the first book in the series just to check it out. See if it's up your alley. There's no reason why everything should appeal to everyone. So if you read the first chapter, they're called chapters. Each comic book issue is called a chapter. So if you pick up the first chapter and you realize that it's really not for you, no harm, no foul. But if you do find yourself entranced by the world, as myself and tons of other people I know, then I would suggest don't buy a volume. So basically how the series is published is that you have chapters, which are individual comic books. I hate to say comic books, but I don't know what else to call them. Individual issues. And then a bunch of them become a volume, and a volume is like a season in a TV series. And then a bunch of these volumes are put together in what is called a book, which is a hardcover publication. You want to save up and buy one of these books just because they are collector's items. I don't mean that one day they'll be worth a lot of money, although yeah, maybe. I mean to say that they are just the most beautiful books, and honestly, they're something of a conversation starter. Anybody who comes into your home, if you keep it out and they don't comment on it, there's something wrong with them, honestly. I'm going to leave a link in the description below. I don't usually like to link to Amazon, but I mean, I link to Goodreads all the time, and that's also owned by Amazon, so who am I kidding? So if you've always wanted to check out a graphic novel series, but you didn't know where to start or you felt intimidated, I feel like Saga is an excellent starting point. The only thing is that, like I said before, things get a little explicit, but I honestly don't think it's too much of a problem. And if you buy the first book in the series, by which I mean the first issue, it sort of sets the tone for what's going to come later. So it doesn't hold back and then suddenly spring things on you, which is why I recommend that you buy the first issue and check it out if that's something that you would be interested in. But it's amazing art and it's an amazing story, and I can't recommend it highly enough. Saga, that's what's good. For more videos, please hit the subscribe button.